Hey students, welcome to this week where we are reviewing for Exam 1. What I want to do in this video is go over really the Weiss book and kind of make sure that you are knowledgeable about what chapters we're looking at. You can also look on Blackboard for the weeks that we've had prior. There were a few weeks that we had content in the week, so other things I added like the Harvard Business Case Study, that article that we talked about. So you can look at your weeks, but in this video, I thought I would kind of just cover the parts of the book that might help you get ready for this test. That's this week. So this kind of serves as a review. Let's take a look at the Weiss book, which is the main focus of the exam. Okay, so I've got the table of contents up here. This test is over chapters 1 through 6. And so in the Weiss book, they're laid out here. I'm on the digital version, of course, which is easiest to go over. But I can click on chapter 1 here and it gets me started. So chapter 1 was about your mindset. And so I've got some things highlighted here, but things like the economic buyer, things about just your mindset is important. This notion of value is really a big part of this. In fact, trying to take this value and reach this ideal buyer, who that is. And then that gap between what someone wants and needs is that value distance. And so he talks about that. He also talks a lot in this chapter about your support system. So who you have to help you in your business, spouse or partner, other partners, business partners that you might use to help make sure your business is successful, but finding the right support base. He also talks in this chapter about, kind of interesting, I thought here, a little different, but self-esteem. So he talks about that high efficacy means your knowledge. And then you also need to be knowledgeable, but you also ought to feel you're knowledgeable. And so he kind of goes into that, trying to not be in these other categories. So knowing those categories would be, I think, helpful. He also talks about professional help in your business. At the end of every chapter are definitions. You want to make sure that you go over those because those could be part of what you may see on the test. All right, chapter 2 is kind of just he calls it barging into business, but getting started. And he talks about some of the tools that you would use to get started. And some of those tools are laid out here. And so you may want to make sure you're aware of those bulleted points. Talks about getting a list of people that you know, like who your contacts are going to be. It's a little bit hard to follow. Networking, he does talk a lot about that, which we found some value in. But networking is not just an event. We talked about this in class. It's a distinctive effort that you go through. And so he lays out some areas or some steps to make sure that this is not just a social event, but a process. So he lays out 5 of those and defines those. Those would be good to know. Once again, you have definitions at the end. All right, chapter 3 was about becoming a marketer. So he talks about strategic marketing, different terms. He talks about building brand. And so goes through here about money talks, your expertise. Talks about these 4 aspects of getting this done: improving your visibility, honing your low pressure environment skills, meeting the audience, both on stage and off, meaning you're kind of when you're on or just when you're networking, kind of casual, and then trying to get with the organizers. And so trying to reach the right buyer is what he's trying to say here. He also goes into this concept of wholesale and retail, so kind of interesting to look at. The part that we talked a lot about was passive income, trying to create ways that your skills and expertise might make you money over and over without you having to do it yourself. And so make sure you look at the passive income. Once again, terms at the end. Technology chapter, you guys all know more about technology than probably he does, but he does kind of try to emphasize that your website is just really something that helps promote you a bit. It's not really your value. Your value is what you offer. And so he starts talking about technology and how it based on generations and things that you probably know way more about than I do. But he does kind of try to talk in here about that technology is not what is your business. Your business is what you offer, your skills. Technology might be part of that, but it really is you, your knowledge, your skill set, so stay focused on that. Chapter 5, he moves into a term that he's already talked about, but that's the economic buyer. He really is trying to talk about the ideal buyer, like the person that really controls the purse strings. And so he goes through here and talks about some statements that might help you reach that buyer, getting past what he calls the gatekeepers, people that kind of try to keep you away from the economic buyer, the one that's in charge of purchasing, not their assistant, but themselves. And so he goes through and talks about that. Reaching the economic buyer, he also talks about the value of just being knowledgeable, reading. So he makes a point about that. He also, to reach the economic buyer, also talks about making sure you look around and you're analyzing your environment, listening and kind of feeling the vibe of what's going on so you can make sure that you connect with that economic buyer in the right way. All right, last chapter 6 is about the buyer's office. And so he's talking about relationships and trying to make sure that your conversations stay within the lanes. He uses this boat channel to talk about you have to maintain this idea of constantly focusing the conversation to be the right direction. He talks about gaining agreement, and he talks about different parts of that, different objectives. He's got 10 questions to try to make sure that you are going to get the most of this relationship with your buyer. In other words, satisfy them the most. So these are some 10 things that he talked about. Talks about the value of what you're offering, and that's meeting those objectives. He goes into this pouring concrete thing, talking about having a solid foundation in a conversation, but just kind of knowing the purpose of, my chapter jumped here. Knowing the purpose of, went too fast. Jumping my chapters here. Knowing the purpose of trying to build value and solve problems for your customer, no matter what that business is kind of what this is about. At the end of this, he's got 10 questions which are important to get handled as you're trying to work with somebody. Things like, what are your expectations? What are some things that you have as far as funding to get this project going? These are just 10 statements he's got, and these can be useful in trying to make sure that your conversations relate to understanding exactly what your customer wants and needs and has in funding to reach those goals. All right, once again, each chapter's got definitions. These are important to make sure that you look at so you can see some of the things I'm highlighting through this chapter, through all these chapters. Okay, thanks for watching this. Hopefully this helps you see what to do to get ready for the test. The test will be multiple choice. You won't be able to go back, so you want to make sure that you answer the question and move forward. The questions will be all jumbled up. They won't really follow a specific they won't always follow a specific chapter designation. So really the goal is to try to familiarize yourself with the book, have it available for you as you take the test, and try to work through that. But they won't be in any good order. They'll also be random, so you can take the test with someone else, but you're going to get questions in different orders. You also cannot go back. So once you get a question and answer it, that's it. Moves to the next question. So trying to get with someone else and do it with them so y'all can answer the questions together won't really work well. And so that's just something to be a heads up. Do your own work is the idea. Things will be in random order. Simple, though, covers the chapters that I just went over with you. Also covers Blackboard and the content online in some of the weeks. So make sure you look at those weeks for what else might be mentioned. All right, thanks. Good luck on the exam.